Yeah, my name is Nakuset on Salewit. I also go by DonnaG as a producer slash kind of solo artist name. I'm an independent musician. I'm a show promoter and organizer, and I play bass in the Vth Circle.
Well, thanks for your time. So yeah, like you said, you're bassist in a metalcore band in Vancouver, Vth Circle, an event promoter.
I don't know if I'd call this metalcore.
No? How would you define it?
I was like we have some breakdowns and like I guess kind of like metalcore-ish like elements, but like we also have a lot of like thrash riffs and kind of technical riffs and things like that. So we decided to call ourselves dynamic death metal because
Dynamic death metal, I like it.
Yeah, because we just touch on so many different genres. So that's kind of what we call ourselves.
event promoter for Solar Flare Entertainment, and also like you said, you got DonnaG. So you're obviously well-rounded with the music. You like a lot of different styles. Did that kind of come from growing up in your family or something, or was that something you kind of found on your own?
Well, a bit of both. Like my family, like both my parents are in the arts. My dad's a musician, so he introduced me to a lot of blues and thrash metal really early on. And then I don't know, like my brothers were into rap music and I was too for a while. I mean, you know, I was born in the 90s, so there's a lot of stuff coming out pretty much, well, in 1995, right? Like I feel like that was a really good year for hip hop, and like after that, like a lot of stuff came out that was just like super good. And yeah, I don't know, just I think where I grew up too in East Van, there's just like a lot of, it's a cultural melting pot. There's just like so much of everything that like I feel like I was just exposed to like every genre and subgenre of music that like exists growing up.
So you just kind of soaked it up like a sponge.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, and even just with guitar, like I used to busk on commercial drives, so there was people, you know, around all the time that just wanted to jam. So I actually learned by like just jamming blues and bluegrass type stuff with people, and then, you know, I would just kind of like pick up metal techniques along the way. And yeah.
That's kind of an interesting journey to go from blues busking on the street to playing. Is it a 6-string or 5-string bass that you play?
It's a 6-string fretless.
It is. Yeah. So
yeah. Well, I played guitar for I think like 10 years before I picked up a bass. And it was just kind of like it kind of just fell into my lap. Like I was really interested in 6-string bass because I was really into Beyond Creation. Do you know them?
No.
Oh, they're just so good. They're dynamic, not dynamic. They're like kind of like dynamic, like groovy tech death from Montreal, and they have 6-string fretless bass. And I was like obsessed with them at the time. And then a band that I kind of like had been kind of hanging around a bit, like they lost their bass player. He left to kind of do his own thing, and they had everything written for 6-string fretless bass. And my friend just so happened to just have one sitting around his house that he like wasn't really playing. So I just like bought it off him for a couple $100 and learned all the songs and just kind of like ended up, I don't know. And then everyone else was like, "Oh, I want 6-string bass, like come jam with me." And like it just became my thing, and now I really enjoy it. And you know, there's a lot of potential on a 6-string fretless. I think, you know, lots of microtones and different like techniques you can use.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, years ago I bought myself a 4-string fretless with no drawn-ons, just as a strategy to get better at kind of testing my ear and everything.
Yeah.
It's a whole different way to play the bass than having the frets there.
Yeah, and it definitely does develop your ear. Like I don't even actually tab out my parts anymore in the Vth Circle. I just all in here now because I just kind of do it by ear and just figure it out.
Yeah, makes for good muscle memory.
Yeah, and then they can't replace me because there's no tabs.
The sound technique.
yeah, I'm joking.
Well, it makes kind of your guys' band that much more kind of unique, I guess, in the scene though too, because I doubt every Vancouver band has a 6-string bassist. So
yeah, I guess it sets us apart a little bit. I guess visually and audiologically, is that a word? anyways. Yeah, for sure.
September 30th was kind of our new national holiday and everything. I'm don't have really any Indigenous background, but I have grown up on the West Coast, so it's kind of around me culturally. But I, at the same time, do kind of still feel sort of ignorant to how you go about with this new holiday. What do we celebrate? What do we discuss on, the Truth and Reconciliation Day? I was wondering kind of if you had any opinions or knew of anything going on in your area that you could speak to.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a loaded question. I think that it's really important on that day to really like reflect on, if you're a non-First Nations person, like what you can do in your life to be a better ally, and because I mean, people often have a misunderstanding that like decolonization just means, kicking out all the white people and, whatever, separating people, but that's not it at all. It's really just like about, yeah, like I said, like about being a good ally, just really reflecting on like, how, the First Nations people in your life, or like, if there aren't any, why not? What do you do to support them? What could you be doing better? And it's important too to educate yourself. I think a lot of people haven't been adequately taught about the history of Canada in school, and they just don't really think about what a colonial society means for First Nations people, even today. So yeah, I think that's kind of it. You just have to educate yourself, think of ways to be a better ally, and also, I feel like this is something that not a lot of people think about as well. Not only educating yourself on the atrocities of the Canadian government and how they continue to oppress Indigenous people to this day, but to also celebrate Indigenous excellence. So to really like go out of your way, because we're really underrepresented in mainstream culture, to really go out of your way to find Indigenous film, Indigenous writers, Indigenous musicians, observe their work, read it, listen to it, allow that to kind of be part of educating yourself as well. Because again, that's a form of decolonization, is to make an effort to pay attention to Indigenous art and Indigenous contributions to society.
I think that's a really interesting point that you make at the end there. That it's not just about, like you say, focusing on the past atrocities and kind of the past history, but also recognizing there's something one of my anthropology professors referred to as living culture. It's it is happening right now, and like you say, I think it's an interesting point and an important point to make, because that's just it. There's still so much going on around us that is kind of culturally happening. It's going to be history one day, and it kind of needs to be recognized as living culture today.
Yeah, of course, because a lot of people, and I've noticed this actually because, well, of course, I moved to a more rural area, so I've been having more foraging books and like just books about herbs and stuff that I take out with me hiking. And I've noticed that like so many of these books, even though they were written pretty recently, always talk about Indigenous people as if they're in the past. And I feel like that's a very common mentality, that like, we don't exist anymore, right? Or like we don't really exist, and that the culture isn't still alive today. Because I noticed that like even the wording in those books, it's like, Indigenous people like used to use this berry for like this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, no, we still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely think that there's a lot more to be done. I mean, Justin Trudeau maybe could have not gone on a holiday.
Right.
Maybe said something on CBC or something, but yeah, like I don't think a holiday is really going to solve it, but similarly to a lot of other holidays, it is like, having a day for people to reflect, because not everybody reflects on this stuff all year. And I think like at the least, some people just need to think about it one day out of the year, and then maybe that'll make them more inclined to think about it on more than one day a year.
So yeah, I see what you're saying. It is positive that it's more and more in the cultural zeitgeist, in the conversation. So another thing, because I appreciate that you kind of have some sociological points of view to make, and I'm interested even to hear where your music kind of goes with that sort of thing. And I really liked your point that you had made recently in one of your posts about obscuring your face, acknowledging that sometimes artist, if she's an attractive girl, she'll end up being judged in a way. Her music and her art will be judged by her looks. And your post was kind of making a point. Would you, well, I guess the other person that I noticed the conversation that's been going on right now has been a lot around Billie Eilish, with her kind of rebranding herself and, in a sense, taking control of her look and her image, how she presents herself, but then getting backlash from it, you know, because when she was younger, she was all about wearing baggy clothes, dark hair, and not really sexualizing herself, but at the same time she was a teenager. Now she is older and she's chosen to present herself in a different way. Just would you feel like elaborating on that at all?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's definitely like, this is just coming from the perspective of someone that's like I've worked in entertainment since I was a teenager. Like I was 17 when I started, like I was full-time on a TV show. And it was really, really hard. It was really, really hard. And I definitely obviously didn't reach the level of fame that Billie Eilish did, but it got to the point where like grown men in the street were like coming up to me because they recognized me, and like people felt very entitled to just like, you know, like yell at my face in the SkyTrain and be like, hey, you're on TV, like I recognize you. And like I can't imagine what it's like to be that young and to have to deal with that level of fame. And you know, it's not even just like the public, it's even like, you know, people you work with, because when you're a performer, you often have like a whole crew of people around you, and you have lots of, you know, adults and like other people that just like, you know, have all these opinions on like you and what you should be doing. And you know, they're watching you all day, they're judging your work, and it's really hard. And especially like the way we present ourselves as female artists has just, it unfortunately defines how we're generally perceived by the public. You know, like a guy can, you know, a guy can be like rugged and ugly and it's like cool, you know. but like girls can't do that, or like, you know, we just get told we're like weird, or like, you know, our music gets overlooked, like, you know. And I did lots of experiments on my Instagram where like, you know, like there was a point where I deleted all the pictures of my face whatsoever and only posted like my art and like political stuff and stuff about the band, and my post engagement just like freaking like took a nosedive. And which is, I mean, you know, I expected that. And then I started posting again, like, you know, I guess thirst traps. So like hot pictures of myself, and like sure enough my likes went up, you know, the average was back up to like 2,000, but it was still very, very low for any of the posts that didn't have that aspect, that were just about my band, or even if it had like a clip of a song or something in the background. So I mean, that, well, first of all, it made me feel like I suck. And second of all, it just made me feel very like, okay, like how do I take this and turn it on its head? Which is kind of a hard thing to do. Like even for this interview today, I was like, should I just like wear like a shroud over my face for the whole thing? But then I'm like, no, because, you know, it's, well, first of all, it's kind of weird to do an interview that way. And then, okay, maybe in the thumbnail I'll blur out my face, and then if people want to see my face, they can actually watch this interview and listen to what I'm saying, right? Or they can come see my band. So it's kind of, for me, a way of I guess trying to like control that value that's put on our looks as women. I don't know. And I'm trying to like just be kind of artsy and I guess more visually intriguing, just like trying to find a way where I can really like manipulate that aspect of social media and of Instagram, because it very much is based around aesthetic and like people's attention spans, which are very small. So, you know, on average, so you need to kind of just like post things that are like weird enough, but like intriguing and like attractive enough that someone will want to like click it and like see what it's about.
It's not really common for people to kind of be so blunt or straight up or aware of that sort of aspect though as well, because I think maybe people are also a little afraid to be controversial in that way, so they buck the trend instead of saying, you know, I'm gonna analyze this and look at it and question things, like you said, try to turn it on its head. I like that term.
Because I really like that term too. I like to use that a lot when writing and just figuring out art concepts and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, like, and there's other artists who have done the same thing. You know, and I don't know how far I'm really gonna go with it, but I mean, MF Doom is a good example of, he's one of my main inspirations, actually, just like musically, because I kind of like, well, he's a genius, obviously, and you know, the way that he puts together his words, and the way how, so like some of his beats are actually like very lo-fi and, you know, quite simple, but he just includes all these like interesting, like creative samples. It reminds me of kind of like a comic book or like a collage. And then just like puts like really like creative, like really good lyrics over it. And he did the same thing. He hid his face because he wanted to keep his self as like a person, and you know, his personal life and whatnot. He wanted to kind of keep that separate from his persona as an artist. And I really like that, because you know, and it resonated with me. Another artist who did that was Sia. I don't know if you remember her.
I've heard her name, and I know I've heard her in some other people's songs featured. It's SIA, right?
Yeah, she did the same thing, and for the same reason. And when I read up on her a little bit, because I was curious about it, because you know, when the thought first crossed my mind to do this whole thing, reading about the reasons why she did it again resonated with me a lot, because she was in an acid jazz band. I don't know if you knew that about her.
Okay. No.
She still is, but like that was like her thing. She was like in a local acid jazz band, and she started doing, I guess, some of her own music too. But when she started gaining popularity locally, even similar to like, you know, anything I've dealt with, any level of publicity I've gotten, you know, you get people like, you know, just feeling very entitled to like talk about you and your personal stuff, and like, you know, who you're dating, like where they saw you, who they saw you with, like, you know, that's just what happens when you reach a certain level of publicity. I think that we kind of do have to put up with to an extent, but it does get to a point where it distracts you from your art and what you're actually there to do. And that's why Sia did what she did. Like, she would hire she hired a young dancer to do some of her videos, and she had, so her videos were a little more like artsy and like based around different weird concepts, I guess.
But
and
then you wouldn't even see her at all.
You wouldn't see her, or she had this like crazy wig where like it just like they had like bangs that like went down to here. So yeah, and it was similar to that, because she didn't want to deal with like, the focus on how female artists look, you know, because it does take away from a lot of things.
Yeah, no, that's well said, and I didn't know that about her. I'm gonna end up digging more into her music now just off that.
Yeah, she's pretty interesting. I mean, she's definitely gained a lot of criticism about other things. Like, I don't know, she made a movie about autism and like didn't hire an autistic actor, which, I mean, you know, that does suck. But just the aspect of like, you know, no matter how problematic she is in other ways, like I just want to acknowledge that. I just think it's interesting that there are other artists that have gone through the same thing, or you know, that's why they create an alter ego, because then, you know, when they're walking down the street just being themselves every day, they're not that same person.
It's it's getting a little bit of the control back as well. Sounds like a little bit of that aspect, rather than just feeling like you're stuck being a public figure.
Yeah, or just like a face to like sell a product or whatever. Because you experience that too as a female artist. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how accomplished you are, there is always some guy who thinks that, you know, getting you to like model his t-shirt is like the best fucking offer you've ever gotten.
You know,
if you're moderately attractive, people fucking offer me shit like that all the time. I'm just like, do you think I have time for that shit? Like, I'm not a model, I'm a bass player.
So that raises another thought in my mind, just you kind of mentioning that certain bands do end up being marketed in a certain way though, because they have a female in their band and stuff. Like I think of most recently with Spirit Box, all the marketing is framed around Courtney LaPlante, even though it's her and the guitarist just as much. So, you know, they founded the band together. But it is interesting that there's definitely been a choice to put her up front, not just as the vocalist and the front person of the band, but also in a way as the mascot.
Yeah, it's like, I like Spirit Box. I just want to say that first of all.
Oh, I do too. Just a thought that just spurred out off of you saying what you said there.
No, yeah, totally. That's totally valid. And like, I feel like a lot of other bands do that too. And I mean, as a band, it's kind of hard not to want to take advantage about anything that sets you apart from everyone else. And I do think it's important for bands with women in them to, again, not be overlooked, because that does happen. A lot of people, no matter how talented a woman is, is always going to be some bitter asshole that's like, oh, people only like that band because they think like the singer or the drummer is hot, right? When I mean, maybe that is the case. Maybe that is the case with some bands, but like that doesn't take away from their talent. That doesn't mean that they're any less talented. And again, as women, it kind of gets left up to us. Like even for me with the Vth Circle, like I try not to be that person in the band, but there are some times where I'm just like, fuck it, I want 2,000 likes on my video. I'm going to put on makeup, I'm going to play bass, and I'm going to hashtag female bassist. Right next to the hashtag gendered hashtag suck female bassist, just like as like a fucking tongue-in-cheek joke.
Yeah.
That's maybe only funny to me, but but that's kind of what I've been doing, again, to turn it on its head. And like, you know, because I do want to take advantage of that. I really do want to promote my band's shit. And a lot of other female artists feel the same way. We're like, okay, if we can promote our band by just like looking good on the internet, like why not? You know, we get, you know, we spend so much time playing local gigs and, you know, try to like hide ourselves and not getting the kind of coverage that we think we deserve. And, you know, it's a fine line, really. I think it's kind of hard to navigate at times.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. It's, social media has many of those kind of double-edged swords, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%.
One thing I think about that I guess has been a positive kind of in that type of theme was, and I feel like I always screw it up trying to say it, is the Metal Lock Lipstick festival.
Oh yeah, Metal Lock Lipstick.
Yeah, exactly. It's one that I have to slow down and try and think about as I say to not fumble over
Yeah,
my
yeah.
tongue.
Yeah,
but when I
it's a bit of
found
a
out about it, I
mouthful.
thought it was a really cool idea, because I don't think I've ever heard of a show or anything kind of that's so kind of promoting, like feminine forward, whatever you want to call it, promoting more females in rock music, and not in a way that, you know, as you say, you know, there's lots of people who just say, oh, there's only the girls only in the band, you know, because she's hot or something. More so like these are so many different talented bands across. It's mostly Canadian, I think, right?
Yeah. They bring in some bands from out of the country, like CabraCon played there one time. They're from Mexico, and we had Interradim from Australia. A lot of time, if bands are like coming through on tour anyway, and they have a woman in them, we'll try to get them a slot.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's definitely one thing that's kind of very, very positive, and I mean, I would say hopefully keeps happening. You see more maybe shows inspired by it and stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely a good thing. And I've honestly met a lot of really, really awesome bands and female artists through that festival. I'm really grateful that it exists. And yeah, Kaya is definitely very good at like promoting it in a way that, again, doesn't capitalize on the sexuality of it. It's, you know, she gets cool art, she's got a cool logo, it's like female-based festival, it's badass, like it's very cool. Yeah.
We have a show coming up for Halloween. It was Halloween, is it?
Hallowpalloza.
Hallowpalloza, my bad.
Yeah, Hallowpalloza. And yeah, that one is again, if it in a perfect world, like half of all people in all of my shows would be women or non-binary people. That's really hard to do, but like most of the bands on the bill have women in them, and so I try.
Nice.
Yeah, I try to fight for equal representation in that way. Again, sometimes it's difficult, right? You get like one band coming through on tour that's all guys, you have another band coming through tour that's all guys, and the only band that's available is also all guys. Like, you know, you have an all male bill, and that happens. But like I try my best to like always prioritize female talent.
Nice. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. And that's going on at Bullies on October 29th.
Yeah, it starts at 4 p.m. There's 10 bands. We're going to be asking for proof of vaccination. I know it's annoying, but this is what we got to do. So
It's what we got to do for live music right now.
Yeah.
I guess also that kind of leads me into my next question with being a promoter and a performer. You kind of look at live events from multiple angles. So how has it been going for you? Like with this one, you said you've got to have multiple backup plans for the Halloween show. Are you able to have plans for other shows after that one, or?
I don't have anything booked because I'm honestly just scared to try to book anything at this point. But yeah, it's kind of just like we have to figure out like, okay, like we might have to like basically get a bunch of chairs, for example, because there's this like small rule that like even if you check like you proof of vaccination like or negative test or whatever, you do everything you have to do, everyone still technically has to remain seated until October 24th. But the thing is, we don't know if that's going to change. So, we have to like basically have like 50 chairs ready in case we need to do that. or change the venue, or like, there's so many variables. But yeah, I think we have everything figured out. So it's gonna be okay. Worst case, everyone's gonna have to sit in chairs and not dance and not socialize.
Yeah, that's been the biggest kicker. Losing the social aspect of a show because you're in like your pod.
Yeah, there's that. And I find it funny though, because I was looking at all these rules, and did you know they don't apply if you're in church or if you're like at a worship service?
Religious exemption.
Yeah, that's what I found weird. I was like, so in church you're allowed to talk to other people, you're allowed to socialize, and you're allowed to dance, but you can't do that in a venue if it's not a worship service. So I don't know. I found that kind of weird. I was just like,
the Lord keeps them safe.
Yeah, I don't think it was like purposeful, but I really felt like the arts were very much like overlooked and like not really considered in a lot of these regulations. I like I know they're there, but like I just don't feel like the arts were prioritized at all, which really sucks, because I mean they're very important. I think they're just as important as pretty much any other aspect of society, but not everyone thinks that. I remember seeing like, I think it was like in the news, in some newspaper, is like something that circulated online where like hilariously enough, an artist was hired to draw a diagram saying how like basically like laying out like how necessary all the different jobs were, and like they were basically rating them, and artist was at the very bottom. It was at the very fucking bottom, and which was funny because an artist designed that graphic, and another artist designed, or maybe the same one designed all the graphics in that newspaper, and the people reading this paper are like sitting in chairs designed by artists and wearing clothes designed by artists, probably listening to music by an artist.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, this is just one of those things. I'm just like, when did we decide we were so useless? with Bullies and at the front, actually, because I also practiced there with my band, and I've booked shows there in the past, but we're basically we're like setting up that way where like we just pay the bands a flat amount, like enough for the night, and then then we figure out our expenses, and they can keep all their merch money, and then and then if we have extra after we pay our expenses for staffing the venue and whatever, then they just get the rest. I think that's
awesome to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely what we're trying to have there, because like, well, again, we're just tired of being underpaid, and and I think the scene is definitely suffering for that reason. Like bands are losing motivation to play shows because they don't see the point anymore. They're like, well, why would I play a show when I could just like work and get paid, which I won't if I play a show. And that really sucks that like talented artists have to make that decision, when really it should be like, oh yeah, I'm playing a show, that's good, that's work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. It can definitely snowball into a bit of a loss of art just because.
Yeah. But I feel like a factor is like, I mean, you can also blame it on shitty promoters, but like you can also like a huge factor I think is venues in Vancouver especially were getting really, really expensive to rent out. Like the owners just were charging ridiculous amounts of money because they see shows as a liability rather than like something they want there. And just landlords in Vancouver, they're just really greedy, and property taxes also skyrocketing. So I mean that was also a factor too. But I mean there's a lot of arts grants that are that are coming out now, which is really good. And I think that'll definitely, like, you know, if a lot more people get smarter about applying for grants and learning how to do that, I think that'll definitely save the scene. Like if more people just know how to do that, you know, because I mean, the government, there is money there for artists. We just don't,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to get it. It is, it's a lot of work. Like grant writing is not easy. I will not, I will not go as far as to say that. I'm applying for several and it is so much writing, but like just learning how to ask for the money, I think is very important, because I mean, as artists, we are entitled to that money. That's what it's there for. And if the demand for it increases, you know, if there's more and more artists asking for funding, you know, that'll be more incentive for them to create more grants and to, you know, invest more out of the federal budget into that.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. I know one of the last albums I can think of off the top of my head was the Cancer Bat's last album was off of Factor. And
oh, really?
Did great for them. I mean, before the
Cool.
pandemic, they were touring the world.
Yeah. Cool. That's good. I didn't know that.
With your DonnaG project, I heard a little snippet on your story the other day, but anything you can tease the listener about that?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I just want to start by saying that like that song I wrote, I honestly just like, because I produce a lot of my own beats. I haven't released any of them yet because I'm just really nitpicky about the mix. I just like wanted to be perfect. But that was a beat made by my friend Julius. And I basically just like, I was really angry and I was having a lot of feelings about the government. And, you know, because it was during the time where, you know, the remains of children were being found on residential school grounds. And you know, Justin Trudeau was doing all this performative shit. The Queen's fucking being completely silent and, you know, whatever over there. Doesn't want to like face it, obviously, because she was partially responsible for it. And I was just having a lot of anger about like just the colonial state that like I have to fucking live in and so many other people have to live in. And also my puppy just walked into the room. Hey, Moose. Oh, hello. Oh, who's that? Well, he's not mine.
Black dog.
Yeah. My partner's dad. He's older, and so we decided to get him a dog, and so this is the dog that we got for him. But we're just taking care of him for a couple weeks. Nice. Hi. Oh, he's biting my sleeve. Anyway, sorry what I was saying. Yeah. So like I wrote it during that time where a lot of that was happening. I had a lot of like angry feelings, so I just like wrote the lyrics down. I did like next to no editing, like maybe like minor stuff to like make it work better like rhythmically, but like I did pretty much no editing. Like I just like threw down the lyrics and I tried not to think about them too much because I wanted it to be a very like raw and honest song. And I just felt like if I just like thought about it too much, then it wouldn't be as raw and honest. So I just like basically recorded it and released it within a couple weeks. You know, which is kind of funny because I had a bunch of songs that I had written and like pretty much ready to release before that. And then I released that and it was really well produced. And now I feel like I have to like kind of like, I don't know, go back and like I redid the cymbals on one of my songs because I was just like, they just need to be better. and that was one that I said I was going to release like a few weeks ago on social media. I was like, yeah, I'm going to like release this song later. And then I changed my mind. Well, that's the thing. You can't be too much of a perfectionist, or like, you know, you don't get anything done. Right?
Yeah. No, I hear that.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the thing too. When you're like somebody who is always creating, like at least for me, like, you know, I'll release something and then I'll kind of like look back on it, and then by the time I've released it and started working on other projects, then I look back on it and I'm like, oh God, I'm like so much like. You know, like, you know, I always feel like I've improved as an artist, I guess, like by the time it's released and out there, where I just go back and I think it sucks because like,
then you don't want to be out there.
Yeah. Because I feel like, because again, like you work on something and then you complete it and then you release it. And then by the time that happens, I feel like, again, I've gotten like better as an artist, or, you know, that I've like, you know, that I wanted to go with an entirely different concept or something. And then like, you know, like try not to delete it.
Yeah, it's kind of a battle. Like I remember Protest the Hero went with a different concept on how they released one of their albums a few years ago because of kind of that battle. They they hated the whole part after you write an album and they spend 6 odd months or whatever getting to know all these songs and jamming them over and over again, they write an album and then they release it. Now they go on the tour spree for a year or whatever, playing these songs. The songs are brand new to the people, the listener, but for them, now they're tired of this music. You know, they've been trudging through it for so long. So they decided to do one song every month for 6 months. And they would just pretty much get like a comic book subscription for music. And you'd get sent a song every month and whatnot. And that way they got to be more into each song kind of intimately instead of, kind of just feeling like they're dragging themselves through tour at that point. So I kind of would be interested to hear what they think, if they think it went better for them, because it was almost like they just put themselves through an experiment there.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty cool actually, because like I definitely know that it can be like that with releasing stuff and full albums too. Like
I think that's also made it tough. It's steered some bands away from doing full albums and a lot more singles or EPs and stuff like that. But that kind of leads me up to my last question. With Vth Circle, it's been since 2019 that you guys released an album, and obviously haven't been busy touring or on stage or anything. So anything that you're working on right now for
a lot
new music?
A lot actually. We've got a single that that's been it's been done. It was done a long time ago. But it's just like the release, like it was actually really funny. So we did a funny video, right? Like I wanted myself and the rest of the band too wanted to do like a funny video, because we felt like it was such a heavy time and like so many people were feeling so like uncertain and like depressed about stuff, that I was like, I just want to make a funny video that'll just like make people laugh, right? Like and then we took that video and the song to a PR guy, and he rejected it because it was too like silly and like amateur, that he was just like, I can't promote this. And like I don't want to, I won't say who it is, and I won't shit talk him for it. Like I totally get it, especially if you have like a brand that you want to maintain, like it's all like serious like metal, like darkness, like grim stuff. You don't want to be like posting this like funny video that doesn't look serious at all. Right? But like, so anyways, so we hired a guy to get it like do like a lyric video, and we talked to him in depth about like the kind of like concepts that we want to do. Like the lyrics are very like Jordan wrote them very much about pollution and a lot of global issues and things like that. He actually made up a word while he was writing the lyrics, polyethylene, which is a word that he made up, which basically talks about like,
word to say.
Polyethylene. It means he might correct me on this, but it basically means like the way that like plastic seeps into the earth and like our bodies, because it gets absorbed by crops too, actually, like microplastics in the soil. Anyways, so he made up a word, and so we got the guy who's doing the lyric video to just include a bunch of footage, about from protests and like environmental catastrophes and things like that. Just it'll look a little more cool and serious, and again more because like we were touching on the concepts that the lyrics were about in the video, but in kind of a more of a funny way. And I don't know, again, the PR guy wasn't, I don't know, like I don't think he hated it. I think it was just like, one of those things. So the lyric video is a lot more serious. So anyway, so that took a lot of extra time to do. And so the release of this single has been pushed back by like months. But that's actually going to come out this month.
Oh, nice.
Probably in a couple weeks is kind of the date that we're looking at. Nice. I made some art for it too. Like I made just like the single art for it, which I did post. And so that's coming out. We're going to play that at the show on October 29th. And then we're also working on a concept album, or I guess it's an EP. And I'm trying to get a grant for this because we want to do like a video for each one, and it's going to tie together like a short film.
Oh, okay,
and
cool.
It touches on a lot of things like mental health and addiction. It's definitely going to be like a lot more serious, because like our music is serious and we're definitely serious about it, but like a lot of our videos and online content we try to make really funny, just for the reason, like, you know, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We like to have fun, and like, I don't know, I feel like the grim, like serious, like, oh, we're so metal and like cool, like I just think it's overdone and like cheesy.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't want to be like one out of like, you know, a million bands that are like, or I guess we didn't, I'm saying like we didn't want to be one out of like a million bands that like, you know, just try to be all serious and spooky and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Oh,
you
totally.
can do that. You can do that, but like it gets to an extent where it's like, okay, like, you know, you guys are cool.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I played in a metal band in Calgary in like 2012 to 2013, 2014, and we didn't take ourselves too seriously type of thing. And I, being kind of more punk and rap and a lot of other things, and metal is something I've grown into. I would be
Mhm.
wearing a Blink-182 shirt, standing there looking at Buddy in full goth death metal painting and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm the drummer. And he's just looking at me like, what the hell? But it
Yeah.
is. It's a weird thing because you cannot take yourself seriously, and then people don't take your music seriously. But then you can also kind of do it right, and people take your music seriously regardless of what type of sense of humor you have. I mean, I always think of a band called
Yeah.
Me Three, that the guys would wear these knee-high socks. They look like they were wearing full like 70s like gym like high school gym type of short shorts and everything. And
I gotta check them out. Oh my god.
but they were ridiculous because they were so dynamic and they were so tight. They would flip through they were a real hybrid of a few different genres, but you couldn't not take them seriously once you heard them play. In between their songs, their banter was ridiculous, and you were just
Yeah.
laughing the whole time. You're like, these guys are metalheads, and then the second they played, you were like, oh, okay, these guys are metalheads.
Yeah. Well, someone who's really good at that too is Archspire. I don't know if you've ever seen them live, but like,
Yeah, I feel like I've caught them at the Canby once before, but
yeah, they're really great guys. I used to share a jam space with them like way back then, but like they're just hilarious like in person, and I just love how like Oliver like brings that to the stage. Like I remember one time he had like they were projecting like Land Before Time footage or something, or like I think he was just talking about Land Before Time. No, it was Seinfeld. He had Seinfeld playing on the laptop like behind him while he was doing his set. But it was like facing the crowd so you could see it, but it was on mute. But like for whatever reason he did that, and then I don't know. And then I think he was talking about Land Before Time, or they had like it's something to do with Land Before Time, anyways. And his banter is hilarious too. But I think it's important if you're, you know, if you're going to be playing such like an intense and like dark form of music, and especially with the kind of concepts that a lot of metal touches on, like you got to have a bit of lightness in there too to kind of, I think, balance it out,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
that's fair. Have the
I
dark and the
feel like,
light.
yeah, just have a little bit of both, because like, well, yeah, like I said, you know, there's only so much seriousness you can put into something before it's just like funny. You know, it's like you
Yeah.
might as well like make it funny on purpose. Like I don't know. but yeah, I mean, like we also have like, you know, we also do have very serious concepts that we want to convey in a very serious way. But it's also a budget thing too. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes when you try to be too serious and like cool and you don't have very much of a budget, like it's kind of hard.
Yeah, you don't want to spend your whole budget on black makeup.
Yeah, you know, or like, but you know, this one's gonna be very cool. It's gonna, yeah, like I said, touch on a lot of things like mental health and addiction, the housing crisis. It's gonna have all of that, and we have some pretty good songs. I definitely feel like we've improved as a band a lot. It's gonna be a lot more technical for sure than a lot of our previous stuff. You know, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a while, probably like at least a year before that's out, but
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, but
And
it's in the works.
do you guys all do all your recording in-house, or do you work with a certain producer or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Dave, our guitarist, and he's actually the founding member of the band, I think. Yeah, the main founding member of the band. He records all of it. He's been to school, and so he's got his whole studio set up at home. He does a great job. We
Oh,
usually
nice.
send it to, yeah, we usually send it to someone else for mastering, just because it's like it's good to have like a second set of ears, really, like just to, you know, because yeah, as we were talking about, sometimes, you know, you stare at something too long until you hate it, right? where you start nitpicking, like, you know, it's never good enough. And, you know, to have another person listen to it who's not in the band, who didn't help write it, you know, have like an unbiased opinion on the mix, and just, you know, turn up more of what they want to hear and whatnot. I think that's like really important to have, for sure. But yeah, we recorded all just like at Dave's house, or like in the studio.
That's awesome. That's definitely an awesome resource to have within the band.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely makes things a lot easier, also cheaper. But I mean, it sounds kind of like amateur to say this, but it also makes it like less nerve-wracking. Like if you, like, personally for me, like if I want to change one of my parts last minute, you know, I don't, not that I like wasting Dave's time, but like I feel a little bit less like nervous about it if like I have something I want to change last minute, if I'm recording with Dave, because he's in the band, he gets it, he can put in his input. But if it's a producer that's not in the band, who's like literally like timing us minute for minute, it's like, you know, then I start to feel bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure,
it's
definitely
a little,
if it's someone you don't know as well.
yeah, and even if I'm capable of changing it like super quickly or whatever, like, you know, or have input about the song, it's just, yeah, like less nerve-wracking and like, you know, anxiety inducing.
Well, I look forward to hearing the new tune.
That. Yeah, I'm excited too, for sure. So, when it's
Cool.
done.
Well, thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to let the listener mention, or anything like
that? No, not really. We've definitely talked about a lot. Follow me on Instagram. My new new name. I was gonna say handle, and then I started to say name, and then I said Haim. My new Instagram handle is Ghostess with the Mostess, with 3 S's, and that's where I'm going to be posting all of my upcoming music. I have a couple songs I'm working on right now that I'm hoping to have out this week, maybe even tonight. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, yeah. And then of course with the Vth Circle, it's not a 5, it's a VTH if anybody's looking for that. And then
it
circle.
is a VTH. Yeah, like the Roman numeral, the Vth Circle. And we're on TikTok now too. We don't.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok now too. I have my own TikTok, and then Vth Circle has a TikTok. I made a TikTok for Solar Flare too, but I'm still trying to understand TikTok. I don't post a whole lot on there, so it's not super entertaining, but maybe it will be. It's really confusing. Like, to me, I feel like it's kind of like a cult, and like I feel very much like an outsider. Like there's all these like trends and like dances and stuff that like I don't understand. And I don't know if I ever will. Like I feel like I'm starting to feel kind of old, to be honest, because of it.
Just do TikToks of you scared and confused.
Yeah, I know. I tried to like do some of the trends, but like I don't feel like I really got it. And I deleted a few of those because I just felt kind of dumb. But anyways, yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, likewise.
This has been awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just end the